The significance of the Trump-Canada situation cannot be overstated. And a lot of you are dismissing it outright, like, hey, the U.S. military will never go along with such an act. But that's not really the point.
Ask yourself, when has Trump ever backed down when he's declared his intent? He might move goalposts or change his messaging, but he never backs down. And he'll throw endless resources at a problem in order to make what he said real.
Now, this is a lofty goal and likely impossible to implement, but there are still many things he can do in order to feel like this has been accomplished.
We'll likely see propaganda operations and overt election interference. We'll see threats of sanctions or undermining Canadian national security in exchange for things like, hey, let Elon put a company somewhere so he can mine some resource. We'll see military planning and training exercises that explicitly state Canada as a backdrop for a landing or some kind of strike, which, by the way, softens up a military towards the idea of striking Canada. And we could see removal of Canadian service members from exchange programs. We can walk back giving them fighters and patrol the territory ourselves. More extreme would be executing military exercises just offshore of Canadian territory and even landing our people in some of the more sparsely populated Canadian territory without their permission. We could see overt messaging encouraging adversaries of the United States and Canada to overfly Canada and otherwise violate its territory. And of course, the right-wing favorite, sanctions and border control. So if you see this as less of a literal outcome and more of a conceptual outcome, you could see how he can be made to feel like that. And now that he's going to be running the government officially, American resources will be wasted in the goal of making Trump feel like Canada is this. This also introduces a huge risk in journalism, that he can't be asked a question for fear of a new policy being unveiled on the spot based on his opinion, which is pretty much exclusively exploitative and destructive. When you open a can of worms with Trump, it becomes his life mission to smush those worms into the faces of every person on this planet. What do I know? Just a boost.